Welcome to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, where our experts will share best practices on running your firm in the digital age. This podcast is brought to you by CountingWorks Pro. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Growth Minded Accountant. My name is Lee Reams. I am your host. I'm the founder and CEO of CountingWorks Pro and our sister company, taxbuzz.com. Today, I'm joined by Rebekah Barton, our Chief Visibility Officer here at CountingWorks Pro. Rebekah, if you could just say hello real quick.
Yeah, hey everybody. I'm excited to be back as usual.
Yes, and this is Rebekah recommended or wanted this one. We get and actually talking to my product team too, Connor in the design and our launching and just dealing with clients, and then kind of a real lot of misinformation about what SEO means today, how much has changed because of AI. So we're tackling a topic that's basically kind of behind the scenes for tax and accounting firms. They don't really understand what's happening, how it affects them. But unfortunately, there is this old legacy business called SEO consultants who have their, they want everything to be technically accurate and correct. And they go off of things that might have worked 10 years ago. And they're, driving their fees by consulting with clients about what they need to do. And basically, it doesn't matter anymore what they talk about. The game has changed. Even Google is smarter. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. So how do you rank now in the AI age? Whether that's Google's new generative results, which if you've been on Google at all lately, you've realized, oh my gosh, Google is no longer organic results. Paid results are way down the page, right? But you also have natural language models like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Grok, you name it. They are all now really in the search game. And there's going to be even more evolution over time because, quite honestly, it's a better user experience, right? So the old days of SEO, for your website and hope for traffic and keyword stuffing, they are long gone. They've been gone for a while, but there's still SEOs out there that will, audit your site and say, well, your H1 and your H3 aren't correct. The reality is that these AI technologies and these search engines and algorithms are much smarter now. As long as you're putting it in a smart, thoughtful, storytelling, structured way, they can figure it out. But people still trying to make some money off of you guys. But that's why we're addressing this issue today. And if you're not showing up in AI-powered search results at this point, there are ways and steps that you can take to be found. And if you are following kind of old rules, SEO, keyword stuffing, you're going to die in the vine here. So we definitely going to go over a lot of different ways to kind of teach you what are the smart organizations doing, what are the brands that are doing that are getting indexed. And this is going to be a lot of repetitive stuff. If you've ever listened to Rebekah and espouse about her SEO and her copywriting and everything else. Sorry, Rebekah. I'm in a mood today, so let's just go with it. But you're going to hear a lot of terminology that we've talked about many times in the past. So focus on user intent, topic authority, not just keywords, okay? Structured content around what? Expertise, experience, authority, trust. We talk about EAT all the time. We've been doing it forever. It is really important. Prioritize video and YouTube hosted content, which dominates AI-friendly search results. I was doing off hours. I was working on some things, asking ChatGPT how my lefty daughter in water polo should be handling when she gets posted down in set, which is like the center position by a bigger player. How does a smaller player guard a bigger player in water polo, right? What does ChatGPT come back with? A great summary and recommendations on how to do it, and then YouTube videos. The game has changed, people. You got to get in it. So the other thing is creating original, differentiated content that adds value because AI penalizes duplication and rewards unique insight. So this is why we've been talking about being a niche player, being an expert in a specific topic, and using tools like CountingWorks Pro, our platform that writes custom content for you in your voice on highly technical topics like taxes, accounting, cash flow, things like that. So this is going to be a fun podcast. I'm going to let Rebekah take over and kind of start talking about some of the issues with the like long tail keyword searches versus just go through. And I want you to do two things. Go through what I would call branded search, like meaning I'm looking for help. Like I want to find the best CPA and such versus the top of the funnel where maybe I'm looking for, should I convert an LLC to an S Corp? So kind of explain that if you can and start jumping in here.
Sure. So, likely said, search has changed completely. I like to say I've relearned my job about 3 times in the past year. We used to relearn our job in SEO every 3 to 5 years. Now it's more like every 3 to 5 months. Algorithms are changing fast. GPT, Perplexity, Gemini are taking huge swaths of search traffic. So this is really important. It really matters. It's one of the biggest conversations I've been having with clients lately, which is why I wanted to do this podcast and just put all this info out there for all of you. So when you search in an AI assistant, I think one of the biggest differences between searching in, let's say, your ChatGPT assistant as opposed to Google is that you're phrasing the question more personally because it feels more personal. You feel like you're talking to a person. You feel like you're talking to something that knows you and knows your preferences. So you're coming at it in a different way naturally than you would going to Google. On Google, for example, you might search something like tax help San Diego, California. It's going to pop up a map. You're going to see a bunch of options. You're going to pick one, probably the top 1 or 2 that has some good reviews listed. On GPT, for instance, you're much more likely to say something like, hey, I live in San Diego, California. I'm thinking of starting a business. Should I convert? Or should I be an LLC or an S Corp? Should I be, a sole proprietor? What kind of business entity structure is going to be best for this new business? And you're going to lay it out in more detail. So right off the bat, as a professional, you need to be posting content that addresses these types of questions. You need to be answering highly specific long tail searches. Long tail search, if you're unfamiliar, is just going to be a longer phrase that's more than, say, tax help near me, tax firm San Diego. That would be just a short tail search term. So you want to be addressing these longer tail things. You want to be addressing specific questions and doing specific answers. FAQ pages, just as a little pro tip, can be great for this because they lay all of this out very succinctly. GPT loves to recommend FAQ pages. So that's one way to really easily kind of get yourself in the crosshairs of this type of search system. The second thing, when people are searching for more branded search, this is where niching down and having specialties is really important. And I'm going to bring up a client of ours at CountingWorks who we've brought up before, but it's a great example of how ChatGPT and other AI search systems index you very quickly if you're doing all the right things within your niche. We have a client in the Chicago area, Schaumburg specifically, who is a brewery accounting specialist. Breweries, distilleries, anything kind of in that alcohol and spirits space. Within 2 days of his website launching, and this was a new brand, this was not somebody who had been established for a lot of years. He started a brand new firm. Within 2 days, with a lot of specialized content on his website, ChatGPT was pulling him as a brewery accounting specialist in Chicagoland. So this does work. We have real life examples. We've seen it very recently with our own clients. So my biggest recommendation for you right off the bat is to start thinking about creating specialties, whether that's a specific industry you serve or a specific type of service you offer, like virtual CFO subscriptions or something like that. Or even if you want to serve your local area very well and you want to really niche down in your community, that can be another way to niche but offer a broader range of services. So there's a lot of options here, but definitely be thinking through all of this as you build out your next set of content for your firm.
So just playing off of what you're just saying, let's go into just now that the search results of like a Google search differ from what an AI output would be. So Google search, the old days before they had, their Gemini search or whatever's powering it on top, you would have link after link after link. And basically the user has to go in and do the research. So you may have asked a question and it's going to say ranking by what it considers to be the most trustworthy, popular brand. And then what you noticed as users is, in tax and accounting, personal finance, it's CNBC, it's NerdWallet, it's whoever is like these big content farms or supposedly authorities, even though CNBC doesn't hire a bunch of CPAs to write about tax. They have a journalist who's interviewing CPAs who are quoted about articles. So, right away, it's like, oh, wait a second, are they really even experts on things they're writing about? But The old day, you then as a user did the research, you clicked into the links and you tried to find the answers to whatever your question. Now with AI, it basically summarizes the answer and then it cites sources that sound what, Rebekah? Trustworthy, specific,
Authoritative.
human, authoritative.
Yes.
So if I'm trying to become that authority and I'm creating content around that, what I would do, right? I would have articles about niches that I could own and write everything I could about every little, and you said FAQ. So FAQs frequently ask questions, but I would try to develop content all around that particular service and or niche that when the ChatGPT or whatever is looking, they're going to see an author who's maybe written 10 articles about this topic, 20 articles. Maybe you have a bunch of reviews, and these things do matter. Social sharing matters, reviews matter. It is a popularity contest, but not in the same way it was before. The other one is pure page rank. How many inbound links does this brand have? And then I'm going to rank them higher because they must be better, which is a bunch of BS in our industry, right? So now this has kind of leveled the playing field where someone who's a small independent tax and accounting firm in Chicago can now compete against these big content cluster companies, the journalists, the mainstream media, basically. So when it's not really about keywords anymore, it's more about relevance. So kind of what is your tip when we go through like a narrative creation when we onboard our new clients, and I think it's really important. Every accounting firm, tax pro should do this, where we really create a personality, a persona around you. We ask you questions. What makes you tick? Who do you work with? How do you benefit them? So now, how do we do that to make relevant content now, or you become the relevant source for specific topics that someone might be looking for? So I'm going to try to go outside. Let's see if I can get some outside the box. We're usually Back Bay, Boston. I always like saying dental firms. Lately, I've been saying San Diego restaurants. Let's stay with San Diego restaurants. So I now want to be that expert for restaurants, multi-location restaurants. How's that? So now let's get, multi-location
Yes.
restaurants with revenue over $1 million. So I'm going after bigger, not mom and pop stuff. I can now create content. So how do I now create that relevance, those signals to both Google and SEO, but more importantly to all the AI type of tools today? How would I do that? How would you help me?
So ironically, you're going to use AI to help you, as it were. We're going to go into AI. We're going to actually use your persona, who you want your firm to be, who you want to serve. Probably going to throw the About Us page we've crafted for you in to the AI, give it some background on you, on what you do, on who you are, and ask it to start crafting us some content clusters. There's another term you've heard me use before. Lee said you'd hear a lot of
Hey, well, maybe this is their first time ever listening to you talk about content clusters.
Could be.
Don't go
Could
too
be.
long, though.
I won't. So a content cluster, effectively, just to give you a little background if you don't know, is going to be a group of articles that are going to all kind of link back to one larger pillar piece that discusses a topic. So in this case, it could be the top 10 tips for restaurant franchise owners in San Diego. That could be your pillar piece. And then you could do 8 or 9 other little pillar pieces talking about some of those different tips. They could be smaller articles. They're all going to link back to the big article. AI can help you do this, but that's going to be a way to start establishing authority within a space. One thing I wanted to mention too, when Lee was talking about the difference between AI search and Google search, domain authority matters so much to Google. The length of time your domain has existed is one of the top ranking factors. That's one of the reasons you see CNBC, Forbes, NerdWallet, these types of places, because they have had their domains since the 90s, right? They've existed forever.
Before the internet, before it was even created.
Pretty much. Yeah. They've been here since like it was
as long as I've been around.
It's a long time.
I know. Sorry.
But domain authority is really, really important to Google, to Bing, to any of the true organic search systems. It doesn't matter nearly as much to AI. So when you're doing something like creating a content cluster surrounding restaurant franchise owners in San Diego, and you're doing that regularly, you're posting those articles over the course of a month or two, AI is going to very quickly pick up on the fact that you're an expert in this area. So creating those content clusters, niching into that specific field is really critical. And also posting on multi-channel forums, multi-channel accounts. Lee mentioned YouTube. It loves to recommend YouTube videos. That is so true. So one thing you might want to do is take these blogs you're putting out that are going to help your website build authority and turn snippets from those into video content. Turn snippets from those into social media posts on Instagram, on Facebook. The more places you're posting, the more your brand authority is going to build, and the more cohesive and consistent you are with what you're posting, the more likely it is that generative search is going to pick you up within very literally a few days of you starting to make these efforts.
I'm going to go off topic a little bit on what we're talking about, but a technique that I've seen that's working really well right now is hijacking very popular brands' content and adding your own commentary on top of it. So you'll see this often where there's big influencers that have huge audiences. They'll, put an interview or a podcast, or let's say someone's showing a home. But now I take their content, and I'm allowed, with proper copyright rules, I'm actually allowed to then commentary on top of it. And I can actually kind of feed the algorithm both the influencers' traffic and their domain authority or social clout. And then I can access that, and then I could create my own following. So you see it now where people are showing homes, and then an architect will critique the home, for example. You could do that with Dave Ramsey or another, influencer, someone who's talking about the tax law changes or something. And then you could add your own point of view or commentary on top of it. So you can basically reposition other people's content. And what I'm getting at is this is helping you be recognized by all of these knowledge graphs and these AI tools and algorithms as being associated with. This is like how you can establish yourself very quickly without starting from scratch. Okay. And that's something I just want to throw in there. That's a little bit not on what we're talking about, but it's a technique that I've been following and researching a lot. And I've seen some people kill it doing it. I was actually watching someone I really like their videos, and all of a sudden I got another person that was, commenting and watching and going through it. And I felt it was a great experience. I thought it was good, still great content, but that person now is building their own audience, piggybacking off the other. So let's get into kind of some points here about, you had mentioned FAQs, answering real questions. Rebekah, if I was working on those multi restaurants in San Diego, couldn't I just go to Max or ChatGPT and say, hey, I want to create some content that's very specialized, includes my personalities, very narrative, so it's human, it's easy to understand, short paragraphs, bullet points, well structured around topics or questions that people are asking that are in their shoes, right? So if I were a restaurant owner in San Diego and I had more than one location, what are the things, my pain points? What are the questions I, might be looking for in ChatGPT or Google? And then how would you set up your own content plan around that? How would you use AI tools to kind of figure out and research it for you?
Sure. So one of the first things you want to do if you're going to go that route, which is a great route to go, is train it on your voice. Take things you've written in the past, train it on how you talk, on how you write, on what you want your content to sound like. And then from there, yeah, you're basically just going to talk to the AI assistant as you would a real human assistant. And you're going to ask it to help you create, these different content plans for different platforms that are still very cohesive. So you could do something as simple as train it on 5 to 10 pieces of content you've previously created on your own. Use this voice. This is my brand about us. It's got all the background it needs. Say, hey, now we want to create some content that's going to resonate with this group, the San Diego multi-location restaurant owners. Can you create a month-long content calendar for me with captions and images for Instagram? Boom, it's going to spit it out. Okay, great. Can we take this same content that you created for Instagram and expand it to create 10 blog posts for the month? Boom, it's going to do it. And you may need to do it one by one. I do want to say that sometimes it may get a little overwhelmed and you may have to write the blog post, say one at a time, but nonetheless, the concept holds. And then you could say, okay, great. Thanks for those blog posts. Let's turn these blog posts into YouTube scripts that I can then break down even further into Reels and TikTok videos. I also did really like what you said about duets, Lee. TikTok calls them duets, where you're taking
Yeah, I'm not a
someone else's
TikToker, but I'll duet it. You got it.
Okay, yeah. You love it though. So duetting is great. And what if you want to be really bold, you can use duets to actually call people out. So if someone is posting incorrect financial advice is rampant on TikTok. So if you take one of those videos and pause it at the incorrect advice and hop in and say, actually, and then you've got this immediate hook of like X well-known person is wrong. That's the type of stuff that can go viral. So if you want to really put yourself out there, that can be a really great way to immediately gain some authority from like an algorithmic standpoint, but also to provide some real value that's going to draw people in and make them interested in what you're going to post next.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. So answering real questions was the beginning. So if you're a multi-restaurant owner in San Diego and you're wondering, what business entity I should create for my restaurant empire, this is what you need to know. And you want to write it that way and then have content that kind of follows it. So that kind of goes into the idea of specificity and scenarios. So and let's talk about that, Rebekah. I'll lead you into that. General tips won't get pulled, but very specific posts will. So give some examples and kind of explain what that means. And that's why, again, it's so what I love about AI, it's very personalized per user too, because AI also knows everything about that person if they're using ChatGPT, for example. And if you're now kind of connecting that persona with what you're writing about, that's how those connections are going to be made versus some generic AI article that was written. So explain that a little bit more.
Yeah. So basically, like you said, Lee, AI wants to create scenarios for people. It's very much about immersion in a way that traditional search has never been and never possibly could be. So, all kinds of scenarios that AI might want to help people put themselves into. AI wants to help people build the lifestyle they want, right? It wants to help them reach their financial goals, kind of create this almost aspirational lifestyle. People get on ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm dreaming of doing X. How do I get there? That kind of thing. So when they're looking for financial advice, it's usually related to some goal or scenario or thing that this person wants to accomplish, and they're telling their AI assistant about it. So posts that do things like, how a crypto trader can reduce taxes on staking rewards in 2025. That type of thing can be really, really good. How real estate pros can qualify for reps after the OBBBA. Yeah.
You can say, I say Oba, Oba.
OBA. I like that.
You got to do a
After
little sheep in it and you'll get it.
the one big beautiful bill
It
act.
wasn't it much better when it was the BBB?
It was easier. I'm struggling with this very long acronym, but things like that address current events can be really great. You may also want to do some very lifestyle specific types of posts. Things like how to adjust your finances after you have your first child in X state. That can be really great because different states have different child tax credits at the state level, different programs depending on income. So writing things like that for people who might be panicking because they've realized, oh my gosh, I just had a baby and I have no idea what I'm doing with my finances. That sort of thing is the type of thing that people get on ChatGPT to discuss. How to send your kids to college and still have the retirement you want. All these types of things can be really, really helpful when you want to rank within generative search because you're not just addressing an issue, you're addressing a lifestyle problem or a very specific scenario that people are likely to go to an AI assistant and ask for help with.
Yes, excellent. And I'm going to continue this. And something that I had heard on, what was it, maybe the All In podcast last episode or something about how, and this is more with Grok and what Musk is doing with his tool, and it's like blowing other models out right now, is a lot of these models are trained more on conversation and how humans communicate versus perhaps how a new way of doing things, right? The way humans haven't figured out how to analyze data. And that if you set up certain models that can train on themselves to find the answer versus finding it from a knowledge base of humans that have said this is the answer, you might get some different types of results. But when we're talking about creating content on your website, on your blog or your guest posts or whatever, you want to write like a human and not a brochure. And what I mean by that is stop using the fluff We see this in our competitors' cookie cutter websites. We value client relationships and provide quality service. Complete fluff. It's like, what does that mean? Who does that speak to? What is it really? Where's your point of view? It's kind of crazy, right? So you need to inject your point of view. So do not just use AI generic stuff. You need to put in prompts that are very specific for what you're losing, right? You're using, right? Or what you're trying to say. So inject your opinion about these topics, right? And then use language your ideal client would actually use. Okay. So, if you're trying to sell your LLC and you haven't done tax planning yet, guess what? You're going to overpay your taxes big time. That is something that would get cited because it's conversational. It sounds like a human. It's not fluff. It's a point of view. Whether people agree with the point of view or not, they might say, well, no, that's not true at all. LLCs are the best way, or you don't need to do tax planning. You just sell it, right? They can argue with you all day long. But regardless, that's the way you get conversations going. And that's also the way you attract the right type of client. So people that connects with, that's going to help them kind of begin a conversation with you, but more importantly, for AI and these search tools to find you. So I think that's a big issue. And then the next one, which I'm going to let Rebekah run with, is consistency. We see this all the time, specifically in clients that build a Wix site, or my cousin builds sites and I did a WordPress site and I love it and blah blah blah. And then I put a blog up and I wrote one blog article in 2007, and I haven't updated my website since then. You're not going to rank in the world of AI, period.
No.
You're done. You're like, you couldn't be farther down on the list of who they're going to reference or cite. So explain a little bit about consistency, why it's so important, and what a good cadence would be.
Yeah, so consistency matters across the board. If you've heard us talk about traditional search, it still matters there. So this is not an AI specific thing, but it has become even more critical when it comes to generative search and AI. So basically, like Lee was saying, you can't have a blog that was last updated 3 years ago or 20 years ago. That's just not going to fly. It doesn't show that you have current knowledge of whatever it is that your specialty is, whether it's restaurant taxation or virtual CFO services or whatever it is that you happen to do. So you want to be posting. Volume matters, consistency matters, and the cohesiveness of your content across multiple channels really matters. That's why we were talking earlier about using a single piece of content and breaking it down into different forms. So social posts, scripts for YouTube, all those different things can come from, say, one blog post. So a good cadence is really something you can stick with more than a specific number. However, that said, posting once a month isn't really going to get you anywhere. You do need to be doing this regularly, at least once a week. You need to be pushing something out. I typically recommend, because you're also not thinking about just one algorithm here, really. You're thinking about the generative search algorithms. You're thinking about the social media algorithms. They're all different. They're all unique. So YouTube once a week can be solid. On Instagram, you're probably going to want to post 2 to 3 times a week on your grid. Stories as much as you want. TikTok really rewards quantity over quality in a way. TikTok likes you to post a lot. But it doesn't have to be as polished. It doesn't have to be as beautiful. Instagram is more aesthetic. You can get away with posting less. So, if you're doing a blog, you're going to want to post probably at least one blog a week, 2 or 3 if you're able. But with your blog, you do want to make sure you're providing value. You don't want to just post something to post something. So if you can only do once a week and really provide good quality, then stick with that. So this is a little bit of a gray area. It's something that when we work with clients, we kind of go case by case. What have you been doing? What do you feel like you can do? What platforms are you using? And then we kind of build a plan for them based on these different variables. But those are just some rough numbers that should help you get started and keep you kind of in the crosshairs of AI and kind of get you ranking.
Yeah, why this is important. These are just all signals you're trying to give. Again, whether it's search everywhere optimization is what we call it. But if you're throwing these signals to all of these tools, they're going to start referencing you. So I'm going to get into the technical side here of why AI chooses certain types of content to reference and ignores the rest. So I'm going to run through this because we're running a little longer than I had hoped on this. This is good information, but again, I know tax and accounting pros sometimes are like, why are these guys getting so technical on us? Well, it's important so you understand how it works. And then hopefully if we hit it up enough, you'll go, yeah, you probably should be doing this too. So I'm going to go into some of the technical side. So structured answers win And what we mean by this, and goes back to the FAQ thing, is a clear formatted with headers, bullets, question answer structure versus just a bunch of text and you're just running on things. It's hard to skim. Think of like a human. They skim a page. It's kind of the same thing. It's skipped. Okay. So, I could say, hey, can I deduct my home office as an S Corp owner, followed by a very simple, helpful answer. Now you become reference material to the AI tools. Okay. Really important. And then it comes into what we call entity and contextual matching. So, what they're doing, and when we say entities, what does that mean? Like tax professional, QSBS stock, for example, crypto staking, right? So let's just go QSBS stock treatment. So that's a whole category. Now, if I decided I'm going to niche in that and I'm going to be the expert for business owners to understand how to set up QSBS stock, how to do valuations, what the time and holding period are, what are the options if I need to sell early, perhaps? Is there ways around this? If your content consistently is using QSBS in everything you're doing, so your social posts, your blog, your newsletters, your guest posts, taxbuzz.com, your guest posts there, you're using the right terms, the right context, your practice, your brand becomes the answer for that subject. So it's like if you have 10 or 20 articles about this specific subject, it's kind of like a reputation loop, whatever. It's you now are giving enough signals. And then just think if you had a bunch of reviews with clients who did QSBS with you. Now you're just feeding this engine. You're on fire, okay? You'll become the go-to voice in that category. So really important. I'm going to get into language terms now and language patterns that match the question. Actually, Rebekah, since you are the trained English major, journalist major, if you can kind of explain that quickly, we're going to kind of run through a couple more and then wrap this thing up.
Yeah, so basically, AI wants different articles that they are recommending to kind of reflect the same tone, the same syntax that the original question had. If people are typing in natural human language, they want posts that respond in natural human language. That's also how these tools were trained. It's how they were built. It's how their brains, so to speak, function. So basically, for instance, if someone is searching what are the tax strategies for selling a short-term rental home, you might want to have a post that says something like, here's how short-term rental owners can prepare themselves for a profitable exit from ownership. You're answering the question in a logical human way. As you're training your AI, you can tell it, to avoid certain terms, to avoid certain types of syntax, whatever you want. That's all on you. But basically, if you want to know more about this, you can search something called query alignment. Query alignment is the concept that your response in your blog, in your social post, whatever it is, should match how people search. There's a lot of theory on how to do this that we don't have time for today. We could probably do an entire podcast on query alignment, in all honesty.
Accountants don't care. Tax pros don't care. They're like, okay, we get it. We're gonna now optimize our content correctly.
So we're gonna keep it short and sweet. Query alignment exists. It means that your content should match how people search. You are a searcher. You know how people search. Think about what you would search yourself and then answer those questions in your post.
The good news for our clients and our subscribers is we know how this works. We do it for clients every day. And then we utilize our Max tool to assist us in creating accurate coverage of tax laws, of these financial issues that a lot of times the generic tools don't have the human in the loop training on top of it. I'm going to go one more tip here, and then we're going to go a little bit into Max and how it works. I don't want this to be a salesy type podcast. We're going to mention it real quick. But the thing that we've been circling around over and over again, what Rebekah keeps talking about, is credibility signals. I used to call it social proof. Credibility signals is maybe the new term for how to kind of AI looks at it. But they don't want just a good answer, okay? They want a trustworthy one. And what I mean there is, have you been mentioned somewhere else? Have you been cited somewhere else? And an example, since we own taxbuzz.com, we allow our subscribers to post guest content on TaxBuzz, a high domain authority website that is now a citation for you. That is a signal. This is a trustworthy pro. And if you're writing about QSBS stock, that's just another or treatment, it's not stock, election, QSB election. It's just another signal that tells these AI tools, hey, this is a credible, trustworthy person. I should maybe look at them as a reference, right? Do they publish regularly? We talked about that. Consistency. Is your content tied to a real professional? Do you have your photo? Bio? Do you have a podcast? Have you been on YouTube? Has your voice been heard? These are real key things to say, yeah, this is a real professional, a real expert. So it says, comma, CPA, comma, blah, blah, blah. There's much more behind that than just designations, right? Do you interact with others with your content? Are you sharing? Are you linking? Are you quoting on social? I'll give an example. These are all signals that help the AI agents say, hey, this source is trusted. It's a real human. Let's include it. Okay, really important. So Rebekah, go real quick. I think this is more for our current subscribers who use Max daily. We have literally, Max is probably the best hidden tool in the industry. We didn't go out to sell it as a tax research tool, like a tax GPT, starting from scratch, like an outsider saying, okay, this is how you should use it. We took our huge knowledge base and obviously understanding of how all of our thousands of tax pros and accounting pros across the country. We have around 10,000 users total now in this platform. We have hundreds of thousands of queries that have been asked and answered, but kind of explain then why a tool like Max might give you better answers and help you get indexed in the AI search much faster.
So there's a couple of different reasons. The first one is that it's really, really trained on tax and accounting. We train it daily on tax and accounting updates, on IRS updates, on things that really matter within the industry. So your content's going to be hyper accurate in a way that perhaps other AI systems are not training specifically on that vertical. So that's one way. You're going to get this very accurate, content that is up to date with everything that happened literally even within the past day or two within the industry. Secondarily, it's connected to your platform. So if you're using CountingWorks Pro, it's already going to know all of the things that you enjoy doing in the system. It's going to understand your preferences. It's going to really have a handle on who you are as a professional in a way that other systems probably won't, because they're not connected to all of the, different things you've been doing within the back end to help run your day-to-day office. So those are kind of two of the big reasons. It also understands your niche in a way that other systems just simply can't, because we've trained it on it. We built it to understand the tax and accounting industry. So you may get terms, you may get, different links, different sources that are really, really relevant within your industry that AI is going to reward because, hey, this is super authoritative, super accurate, these different types of things. So Max can definitely be helpful within this vertical. But again, we don't want this to be a salesy podcast, but it's definitely a tool that can help you if you're interested.
Yeah, and I'll just give an example. We're starting our I'm not gonna do but the BBB our virtual tax update is starting now. We're rehearsing. We started rehearsing yesterday, and today we're gonna do it again. We're starting live on Monday. But all of the content that we use, basically you have the research from CountingWorks Pro that's basically created the cliff notes of this entire bill. Everything you need to know, we've already loaded it into Max. So you don't have just the bill that is attached that maybe ChatGPT can access if you load it, right? We have all the analysis of it and then the strategies that go with it. So that's where that human side makes it so much more accurate. So we're done with the Max part. If you're interested in CountingWorks Pro, visit countingworkspro.com. We have kind of like a discovery call that we can walk you through how to create a narrative, how to create content that's unique to you, customized with Max that can automate this. We basically can help you run your firm on autopilot and help you rank here, both in the traditional search engines and going forward. So I'm going to give a recap here. I think this has been a good actual podcast. If you're really into kind of growing your firm and getting more awareness, you want to be a legit player, you want to go from a solo to a big firm or a medium size to a large firm, these are things you can apply in your practice right now. You can change your results for next tax season or for next year today. So what are some things that I would do right away? I would pick a niche and I'd be the person for that topic. I would be the expert. I would own it. And then if you want to then have another person in your firm own another side, go ahead and do that. I would write 5 blog articles and answer real client questions. So kind of in the formats that we've been showing you. You can ask AI, whether it's ChatGPT Max, to do that for you. You want it to say, hey, I want to optimize this article for SEO and for the AI tools. And I want you to make sure that I'm covering everything that my target audience. So make sure you tell them what my target audience is, what their pain points are, put your personality in it. And then tools like Max and even ChatGPT, if you taught it correctly, they'll pull from your bio, your website, all these different other contents that give even more personality. Use AI tools to either write with the right context to personalize. Don't do generic AI. It does not work. Or kind of a co-write. That's what I do. I co-write with AI. And what it does is it allows me to get my messaging out in a way that saves me a ton of time. If I did the same article output, it might take me 3 or 4 hours that I can do in 10 minutes with AI. And the quality of the article, the way it's written, the narrative, the storytelling is a much better output than my writing quality. I'm a good writer. I'm not a great writer. I become a great writer when I allow AI to assist me. So I look at it as this is my content. I push this. This is my narrative. But I added an army, basically, of knowledge to help that. Push publisher consistently. So on your blog, make sure you're pushing that out by your newsletter, because the newsletters will draw traffic back to your site, more signals. Make sure that you're getting links on your professional, so your college links, or if you have any professional designations, Chamber of Commerce, make sure all of those are linking back to your site. Again, these are more signals. So you're not gaming the system. You're feeding AI what it's actually looking for. So let's wrap this up, Rebekah. You have any parting shots, anything I haven't talked about? This is not a trend. This is the new infrastructure. The game has changed. Where do you think you have for your final take?
I think we really hit on everything today. I just want to encourage people to not be afraid of this. I know it sounds like a lot. It sounds really technical, and I know we did throw a lot at you today. Hopefully, we broke it down into manageable chunks, gave you some actionable topics, actionable ideas you can really use. But this is the future of search. It's already changing everything. I know that, like in my life, I use GPT now for everything. I don't remember the last time I Googled something. I go to GPT for everything. I know lots of people are in my same boat. We prefer it. We prefer the personalization it gives. So if you can direct your content towards your audience, they will find you. That's a fact. GPT, Gemini, they're going to find you. So you've just got to be kind of giving it the right output. You've got to be putting things out that it's going to want to pick up and promote to people. But it's not that hard. It's actually easier than ranking in Google if you just do it right and you really focus on targeting your target demographic.
Yeah, awesome. So again, thanks again for tuning in to the Growth Minded Accountant. If you are unaware of our YouTube channel, we are building that out to include even more than just the Growth Minded Accountant podcast. We've got a lot of different snippets, reels, posts. We have a Tactical Tuesday if you're ever interested in some of the tools that we're creating, so you can kind of get an idea of how we work. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel, Accounting Works Pro. If you have any questions about our services, again, visit us at accountingworkspro.com. Please like, share, comment. We like having conversations on any of our content. And we look forward to seeing you next time. And make sure that if you do this, I'm telling you, AI will want to reference you. So good luck, and we'll look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you.